everyone. Let's get started. First item on the agenda is approved minutes from January 25th, 30th, 31st, and then February 1st and 2nd. I'll had those a little while and looked at them closely. Are there any changes? Not. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, Representative Smith.
After deep deliberation, I move that we pass the minutes favorably.
Is there a second? Representative Lewis, discussion. None. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. We now have the bill hearing we've been waiting on all session, quite controversial. I'll open the hearing on House Bill 2395. We'll have Natalie, the only person that signed up to speak on this bill today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't remember signing up to speak, but I will. Happy Open Records Day. So today you all will be reviewing the exceptions to the Open Records Act. And so for those of you who are new, I'll kind of just explain the process. Throughout different pieces of legislation, sometimes you guys feel the need to disclose or prevent the disclosure of certain records that would otherwise be open to the public. And so essentially what you're doing there is you're creating an exception to the general rule that all documents would be open to the public. And when you create one of those exceptions, the Open Records Act provides that exception will expire after 5 years unless you all review that exception and continue it into existence. So you just have to do that the one time. If you act to continue that exception into existence, then it will continue forever until the legislature makes a different decision to remove that exception to the rule. Our office is charged with coming up with a list of all the exceptions that are going to expire every year. We put them in a bill before you so that you can review those exceptions, and then you guys can make a determination as to whether you want to extend them in existence or not. And so that's the bill that you have in front of you. Our office's memo goes a little bit into that process. It also lists the factors that you guys should consider as you're determining whether those open records exceptions should go into the future, which are what specific records are affected by the exception, who does the exception uniquely affect, what is the identifiable purpose of the exception, and whether that information contained in the record could be readily obtained by an alternative means. With our memo, you have a list of the statutes and the exceptions that are set to expire this year. So this year, there's one under the Department of Agriculture, the criminal history information for the Industrial Hemp Act. The State Banking Commissioner has one on informal orders under the Kansas Money Transmitter Act. The Commissioner of Insurance has two examinations of captive insurance companies and records related to captive insurance companies. KDHE has one for maternal death investigation records. The courts have one, petitioner addresses and phone numbers for certain protection orders. CPost has an exception expiring this year. That's the registry of all the Kansas police officers or law enforcement officers. The executive branch agency is internal IT security assessments. And then the executive branch agencies in Kansas Information Security Office, IT security. There is one every once in a while. Our office does miss one. So there's one that we actually missed last year that we didn't certify to the Speaker and the President. So that exception is contained in this year's bill, and that's for the State Board of Healing Arts, the certified nurse midwife records. So with that, you will see each statute there, and the highlighted portion is the exception to the Open Records Act that you're looking at. So you will just review these and kind of determine whether you want to keep them into existence or not. And with that, I think I can take any questions.
Any questions, committee? Yes, Representative Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I assume you wouldn't be the subject matter expert on any of the individual exemptions and how they're used and why they were implemented.
Well, except for example, I mean, courts is a subject matter that we would deal with here. C-post is a subject matter that we would deal with here. But there's certain ones that I know more about than others. But if you do have a question, feel free to ask it. And if I don't know the answer, I can get it from one of our other attorneys.
I would like to know more about 9-512, the bank commissioner. I would just like to know the background of that act and what's going on, because it seems strange that you might be issued a penalty, but if you have an informal agreement, it suddenly becomes private when other agencies issue an order or a consent agreement out of that. I don't have enough background to know. I would like to know what's kind of the impetus for that.
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, even I don't deal with that subject matter very often, but probably that would be a question better directed to the banking commissioner or someone in their office, because I don't know that our office is going to be able to provide you the intent of why they decided to do that. So
There's some digging. Thank you.
Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My vague recollection is that that particular exemption was the subject of some debate at the time as to whether it was appropriate or not. And as I recall, I did not carry the day. Thank you.
Nothing like picking old wounds.
Any other questions for Natalie? Okay, Natalie, thank you. Committee, I have no listed conferees, opponents, proponents, or neutral. Are there any? Eric Turek with the insurance commissioner is here, but he's just here unless you want to step up. Oh, he does. Look at that. He offered, I guess.
Since you called on me, Mr. Chairman, Eric Turek here from the Kansas Insurance Department. We did not bring forth this bill. The provisions in the bill specifically speak to financial examinations for captive insurance companies. I was just checking with our legal team to see if all examination material is exempt from the Kansas Open Records Act. I'm trying to get you that answer ASAP, but otherwise, the legislature created this exemption previously, and so it's. I'll just leave it at that.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, seeing no conferees at all, I'll close the hearing on House Bill 2395. Next, one bill I intend to rework, or at least see where we go to. I guess it will be working. We'll see where it goes. House Bill 2023. Natalie, would you like to remind us again what this bill is about?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2023 creates the new crime of interference with the conduct of a hospital. It creates criminal penalties for violation of that new crime, and it also increases the criminal penalties for battery of a healthcare provider employed by or providing services at a hospital.
Any questions for Natalie? So you'll recall we passed this out of committee a week or two ago. It got sent back to us last week. I believe the reason it was sent back was to potentially address some concerns that were raised that the definition of healthcare provider was not, we weren't covering all potential healthcare providers. And so I have an amendment, if Natalie will pass that out. What it does is it's about the broadest definition that the revisers could come up with for a healthcare provider, to make sure we're not leaving out any types of clinics or other healthcare providers. Take a look at that. So you'll see throughout where it referred to hospital, it now refers to healthcare facility. And then there's a definition of what healthcare facility is. Yes, I will. Go ahead. Yeah, Natalie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure it's pretty clear that so we're changing the definition of who it'll apply, who the new crime will apply to. Interference with conduct of it'll be healthcare facility if this balloon were to pass, and then we define that. But we also do make some changes down in the battery provision to change the definition of a healthcare provider to include anyone who's included in KSA 403401, which is a very expansive definition of a healthcare provider.
I will move my amendment. Is there a second? Representative Owens, discussion? Okay, awesome. Any discussion? Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I have not had an opportunity to read this in detail, but would the definition of healthcare facility include clinics or other medical facilities where abortion services are provided and or so-called pregnancy crisis centers?
I believe the answer is yes, but we'll let Natalie answer that just to confirm.
Mr. Chairman, I do believe that they would be covered. This definition hasn't been used in any other statute, so I can't, say what a court would say. But we are saying any facility or a portion that is created for the purpose of providing inpatient or outpatient healthcare services by any of those healthcare providers. So I think it would be covered.
That appears consistent with my quick read as well. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment? Representative Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Could you explain to us a little more about the procedure that happened? I mean, we passed it out and someone requested that it come back, or how did that work?
We passed it out. It sat below the line. Some concerns were expressed to leadership, and leadership decided to send it back.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
To try to address those concerns here instead of having a long debate on the floor, to have, since we heard the bill, let's discuss it here.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Any further discussion? Representative Carmichael.
I make no secret of the fact that I expressed concerns to not only the speaker, but also the majority leader, that this legislation, in my view, was not expansive enough, that it did not include, for example, emergency medical centers, EMCs, standalone emergency facilities. And I also expressed my concern that unfortunately one of the places where assaults of healthcare providers has in the past occurred and where healthcare businesses have been interfered with were facilities where abortion services are provided. And I also allowed as how I felt like it was only right that we make sure and protect pregnancy crisis centers as well as abortion facilities. And on its face, it appears that this change accomplishes those purposes, which I thought would be a worthy purpose. So I've had issues with this bill on other grounds, but I find this to be a fine improvement of the bill. Thank you.
Further discussion? Not, I will close and move my amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Any, that's on the amendment. You want your? Yeah, I do. Okay, Representative Carmichael and Heiberger would like their yes votes recorded. Representative Heiberger.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment.
Okay. Not the speaker, though, but.
Not yet.
Good luck with that. Natalie's clicking around, so I assume it's working its way our direction. Would you like to explain your amendment, Representative Heiberger?
Yes, I would. As everybody knows, I think this bill has two parts. One creates a new crime of now interference with the conduct of a healthcare facility. And the second part increases the penalty for battery against employees of healthcare facilities. I think you may also remember that I expressed real concerns about the second part of the bill because if you look at the battery statute, there are about a dozen exceptions that have been carved out over the years for people getting special protection in air quotes by enhanced penalties, and without any data that I've seen in the time I've been here that the enhanced penalties actually do provide any additional protection. We've been asked to send a gesture to our healthcare workers of support. I don't think sending gestures to specific groups of people is a sound basis for making criminal law. What the amendment does, it removes the second portion of the bill by striking the enhanced penalties for battery against a healthcare worker.
Okay, is that your motion?
We've moved my amendment.
Is there a second? Representative Carmichael, discussion? Seeing none. Representative Heiberger, you can close.
Yeah, I was horrified by the stories that we heard about what's happening to our healthcare workers, as you were. Based on all the testimony I've heard this year and last year, it really seems to me to be a law enforcement problem and a prosecution problem, not a law problem. I don't think the bill as drafted will provide any additional protection to our healthcare workers. I think I would rather do something. I would rather do something to protect our healthcare workers than send an empty gesture that we would like to protect them. So I would move my motion.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Noes appear to have it. Is that a division or you're just recording your vote? Okay. Noes do have it. And voting aye on the amendment is Heiberger Carmichael. Any further amendments? Seeing none, is there a motion on 2023 as amended? Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I assume this is the motion to move it out.
Correct.
I would move that 2023 as amended be moved out favorably for passage.
Yeah. Multiple seconds. I'm going to give that one to Representative Lewis. What'd she say? I didn't even know she showed up. Discussion. Seeing none, Representative Goddard, you can close.
I close my motion.
For the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. No votes recorded by Representative Carmichael and Heiberger. That's it, committee. I am going to give you a list of bills, which very well could change, but just to give you a few to think about for Thursday. 2215, 2216, 2351, and 2395. Can I reserve the right to change that tomorrow, but be looking at those four and we'll see where we're at. We have 1.5 bill hearings tomorrow. So one scheduled and then the continuation of yesterday's. And then Thursday we have a couple bills and we'll see what we can fit in. That's it. Thanks everybody. We're adjourned.